Fortunately, we've made it to another Wednesday, so we could talk about cannabis legalization news, which is very often good. But sometimes the algorithm gods strike you down, and then you're like, well, what did we even do? Oh, right. We were advocating for legislative and policy change against crimes. It'd be one thing if our news was, hey, wouldn't it be great if we had this law instead of that law, which is essentially all it is. But because the current incantation is, well, it's completely illegal. It's like, trafficking in heroin at the federal level. How many people are employed by cannabis now, Miggy?
Dude, I don't know, but it's created quite the infrastructure of jobs and auxiliary and people who touch the actual flower. But I mean, to your point, though, we are victims of YouTube.
Hundreds of thousands of legitimate tax-paying Americans, non-exportable jobs, because like the cannabis plant doesn't scale. It's not like row cropping. It's more like strawberries, in the sense that hopefully it's a little bit more diverse than strawberries too. So it'd be even more of a horticultural product than that. But hundreds of thousands. So any actual news come by your desk?
Oh, there's lots of stuff, brother. Because just like hemp, I was telling you earlier, it's just like Trump news. You get flooded with so much.
Yeah, he has corona.
No, he doesn't.
Is going to the hospital. He's taking a tour in a car. He doesn't have corona. It's like, wait a minute, what is this crap?
But hey, so congrats to your people in Peoria.
Yeah, East Peoria, second recreational dispensary location opens. This is a new med, which I believe has branded itself now as New Era. However, this is just the current law playing out for the early adopters. So that's one of the reasons why people like to get their medical license in a state when they go medical first, because they will be grandfathered very oftentimes into a state, unlike in Washington State, where they just basically murdered all the medical people, right?
Oh, dude, it was horrible.
Yeah. Michigan's got it right, where they can kind of have like these medical grows going on with the adult use grows. And I just heard there was something out of Michigan. This is some big news. Where they're going to be, not the theft, man. I thought they were going to really open up the licenses and say that there's going to be a lot more licenses coming because they're going to have this smaller license type. But I just saw the headline and I didn't read it.
Michigan opens the access recreational market, like Pennsylvania's law.
Like Pennsylvania's law. So go over, what's the summary of that headline? Michigan to open to access the recreational to help curb black market sales. How do you go after the black market?
You open it. You open the market to growers for testing, right? Early next year, Michigan will eliminate the barrier. This is going to be exciting stuff. It's almost time.
Micro growers coming. And then it's just, you need some regulation, but how much? So I'm going to get one of my staff attorneys on that. Get me the...
Well, I think that the regulation there itself is going to be the licensing as always, and then the testing. Lab regulation is plant regulation. Once you require that, that person, the personal home grower is going to have to okay, I just sold you 20 pounds or whatever. It's going to be a seed to, they probably have a license, a small craft license, but I don't think they're going to be accountable. That you're definitely going to have to check that one out.
Well, yeah, and so I will. But then the thing is, it just came across, and I'm like, well, that's awesome. Hopefully one day that's going to be something that will happen in Illinois, where it's just such a closed market, and that's just not very American. Somebody should be able to have access to it, because if you don't open the market like that, you just keep the black market there. Especially like if you don't open the market and the tax rate is higher than bananas, you're just asking the black market to stay there.
Well, when you brought up
I shouldn't call it the black market. Legacy, traditional,
legacy market, yeah,
yeah.
And just like to the article that the first one I brought up, that was it's two men are arrested in their home for marijuana in Pennsylvania, the state that would be the model state. But look at these two guys. I'm just guessing why they were fucked with. I'm just asking for a friend. I'm just saying these two Americans who are 21 and 19.
Well, how do they look? Because remember, this is a podcast as well, so you always have to describe what you're reviewing on the screen.
I'm sorry, the two young black men right there, and then look at this crime, all this marijuana.
Oh my gosh, they've really stopped it. They've really stopped crime over in which city is this?
That was in Pennsylvania. No, Sharon, Pennsylvania.
Well, let's get some reports from Brookings, South Dakota. Brookings, South Dakota has a speak out section. So somebody wrote a letter to the editor that says marijuana should not be legal. And it starts with marijuana is a dirty drug. Nothing says fair and unbiased like just admitting it right up the tight. Like, here's my premise: this is a dirty drug. It's harmful.
Well, and that, to me, dirty has a racial innuendo to it too. I mean, come on, like how often? Of course, heroin's bad.
Well, drug, and then again, it's just the political aspect of it, the prejudicial aspect. So somebody writes a letter to the editor in Brookings, South Dakota. So like that's a no vote in South Dakota this fall. But it doesn't mean, it doesn't mean that like that's the prevailing view. It's just it's still out there.
But was it signed by Kevin Sabat?
No, it was signed by a Bernie Hendricks. No idea who that is.
But well, we stated before, like prohibition has set like. American prohibition has set the precedent in the world, and I like the Navajo Nation changed its definition of marijuana. So for years, and this could affect their ongoing hemp coming up, because they're saying anything off of the cannabis plant is marijuana, period, and they're trying to treat it like it's still a bad thing. Which I don't know if you're familiar with reservation life
in the Indian areas.
Yeah, on the res in the Navajo Nation. So the nations. They're self-governed, and I've always wondered, because some are different, some are more liberal, I guess, like states, right, more open-minded. But I always wonder why do the Native Americans always wait for permission from the American side?
Oh, because they're worried for their lives, or they don't care. But
there
is some good news, like, as opposed to the weird, crazy stuff that happened last week that you can get the coronavirus and not, and all sorts of other stuff. But there's no increase in road deaths or crashes. Who's reporting on this? Dope Magazine reports that there's no increase in road deaths or crashes after legalization. And this is relative to the New Zealand prepares to legalize cannabis. They're worried about it, but they've done, now it's starting to become, what do they call that? Meta-analyses, epidemiological, like where they have studies. So they're looking at various states after they legalize it, and it shows that usually nothing wrong with the road injuries. They've been going down decade over decade because of more safety features.
But where are we at? 9 recreational states? 31?
No, we're at 11. 11 recreational states. I mean, like, one of the things is, though, we should just frickin' count Oklahoma.
Yeah,
we should count them, because of think how open the Oklahoma market is. No medical conditions,
and no planes falling from the sky, no massive car accidents.
Is Oklahoma still out there? I think they are.
Did it burn down?
Right. Well, there are many small fires raging in Oklahoma, but they're under control. They're under control. Yeah.
Hey, did you see the one about the dang? Marijuana use increases pain after surgery, requires more anesthesia?
No.
I'm not sure how much reliance I put in this one. This was shared by also Lester Grievespoon's son. Mm-hmm. I follow him on Twitter. And, the point he made here is the conversation with the doctors needs to always be open, so you can let your anesthesiologist know, hey, I'm a cannabis consumer, and we don't really have any real facts on this shit. Doctors will cite so much bullshit as far as like, I can't do this with you because you like organ transplants. There's a lot of people that deny organ transplants, but there's no science saying that your body's gonna reject it because you're a cannabis consumer. Freaking retarded. It's
the prejudice of the plant. The prejudice. It's a real prejudice against the plant. It's not fake. And then like we have. This is the marijuana moment reporting. A congresswoman said she'd break federal law to get medical marijuana if her daughter needed it. Now, of course, the funny thing about that is, of course, she would break federal law if her daughter needed it, because all federal law says that it is not medicine. And so, you can only break the federal law. But, it's just so sad that at that time, we have to say we disagree with this federal regulation that we have, and we aren't going to vote on it.
But how hypocrisy, the largest of it, with like the president who gets this special treatment that only 3 people have been treated for, right? And then whereas cannabis, a plant that's being used by thousands of people as medicine,
brand new novel medical crap, and then a shitload of steroids, and then 2,000-year-old plant, botanical stuff, hasn't hurt anybody. Keep arresting people for it. Don't
Not
change
even-
the law. Don't even vote on this. Like, why has it been this way for the past 50 years after the Schaefer report came out? What's holding them up?
Well, the federal government not letting me have a holistic approach to my own health is pretty messed up right there, period.
But I don't like how the federal government says that, like, my job is illegal. That is bullshit. I am trying to follow all these laws and change that one.
Yeah, no, and then again, what is it? Governing morality.
Right. The LaGuardia governing morality. That's a good one. But the real cool thing is that more and more people are saying, and of course this is a Democrat from Virginia, so like it's basically saying that she supports the state's idea of medical cannabis. And so if you want to access medical cannabis, like over 80% of the population does, there's no such thing as medical cannabis under the federal law. Not sure why.
And again, back to the mindset of most people where, and we've talked about before how cannabis legalization seems to always be the juvenile thing for most whatever. Like this is not important. This is not a thing that's going to be, it would change our freaking country. But, even law enforcement, proper law enforcement who care about real crimes are even less concerned. Did you see the one with Dave Chappelle and his psychedelic parties? And I'm pretty sure cannabis use is there. Not a concern. Why? Because these are grown adults taking care of themselves and not causing harm. Freaking insane.
I don't know, man. It's something else. It's another week and trying to not be a criminal news.
Well, within the criminality, with the MORE Act not happening, and again, the Safe
MORE Act, the Safe Banking Act would have been nice. Just been like, all right, well, we're going to slow walk this one and keep it still federally illegal, but you can now bank.
Because of that, right now we have a string of robberies with gunpoint in Washington happening with all these dispensaries, pot shops. These guys
got the cash and they got the weed.
That's it. I mean, if they were allowed to use credit cards, they wouldn't be a victim, would they? Or at least a target.
They still try to rob you. That's the thing. Like, I say it's a lot harder to make off with, $10,000 worth of alcohol than it is $10,000 worth of weed. You can hold like 5 pounds of like high quality weed, and that's thousands of dollars worth. And so because the weight and the value per pound is so high, you'd still have the vaults. You'd still have security.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they would at least have better protections, I would think. Yeah.
Right.
At least when you don't have cash on premises. But, that's a continuing issue with both the medical and recreational side of cannabis period.
Go over to Cannabis Industry Lawyer or Cannabis Legalization News and subscribe to our newsletter there so you can stay abreast of all cannabis legalization news, including all that stuff that came out of Illinois. Let's see. What's the date on this one? October 13th at 7:29 p.m. The Sun-Times, the Chicago Sun-Times is reporting Cook County Commissioner and ex-pot regulator admits ownership in that Americana Dream company that got so many of those tickets. And it looks like it's more rigged stuff.
This is just like, I mean, I get it though. You know what? With the president in charge, doing shit, you can do shit blatantly.
You can do, like, what is it? What's in it for me? Like, or you could use the White House to stump speech. It's like you can.
You mean the Hatch Act? There's no such thing as a Hatch Act. Hey, did you know?
I mean, there's laws that says you can't do that.
You use the military ban? No.
Yeah, well, I feel good things about what's coming up, and we are going to talk about some election news. That's great. We reported on this actually a bit ago, but New Zealand, remember? We reported on New Zealand. Well, High Times is reminding us that New Zealand gets to vote on cannabis legalization Saturday. So Saturday will be October something or other. They've spelled legalization wrong, though, in High Times, according to the New Zealand audience. You actually spell legalization with an S in New Zealand.
That's how I spell it sometimes.
Yeah, when I spell it wrong, I usually S. Yeah,
like, it just looks better with a Z. I don't know why.
Yeah, like you're zationing it. Oh no, it's less.
But
also, New Zealand.
New Zealand, Mexico might be thrown on there in October. So we got 2 countries coming up.
That's good. Yeah, but that Mexico market is going to be crooked as hell. I mean, they do corruption down in Mexico, and they do it way more spicy than I think we do it in America.
Oh yeah, well, I know a friend who lives in Sonoma, and he talks about driving past fields of cartel cannabis. So I mean,
yeah,
it's already happening. They already got the fields, and
they're just going to give them a license now. It's like, here you go, sir. Thank you. Yeah,
maybe it'll be less shooting. I don't know. But did you know?
I'm for less shootings if we can get less of those. Yeah.
Yeah, less death is great. Mm-hmm. Did you know if you lived in Maine, you're called a Mainer?
No, I did not know if you lived in Maine, you're called a Mainer.
Mainer spent over $250,000 on their first legal weekend after 4 years. It's finally there. They can go to a store now after 4 years.
Maine is also one of those states that's got basically nobody in it. And so, like, I think the population of Maine is about 700,000. Like, Vermont legalized, and the population of that's only like 620,000.
Yeah, but
so, like, small states are getting it. Legalization, it's not yet it's for big states. California, 40 million, all the way down to, Vermont, 620,000.
Well, $250,000 is not too bad for a weekend.
Yeah. You know what else happened? A couple of other things. In cannabis legalization news, we turned to hemp. In hemp, a complaint for declaratory and injunctive relief was filed by the Hemp Industries Association, In Re Botanicals, Inc., against the DEA. And they say, and a whole bunch of other stuff. We were knocked off the air, and so we weren't able to go live on that. But now we get to read this. It's like 30 pages, and it's about how the DEA is being a subterfuge, SBUTR fuge.
I mean, it's great that they initiate this lawsuit, but
these are expensive. Like, this is an expensive lawsuit. This is going to be at least $100,000.
But how do you know it's going to get momentum? Like the thing just recently that got stopped in the Supreme Court with the lawsuit with the kid and the football player.
Right. They just kicked it. They declined to hear it. They declined to hear all sorts of cases.
Do they even get like a reason why, or it's just more like?
Do you think that abortion is going to be re-legalized if Amy Cohen Barrett gets onto the court?
That's just more paperwork, dude. I mean,
I just think that, like, it's weird that time goes backwards sometimes, and we're still in the backwards times when it comes to cannabis because it's still federally illegal.
Yeah, well, that's
subverts.
Well, and then we're still getting pinged on social media. How the F does that still go?
All right, we're getting pinged on social media. Thank you for joining us on our new channels, The Collateral Base, and also Miggy420.
Yeah, my mystery channel until I can rename it.
Well, the thing, and then, of course, go to CannabisIndustryLawyer.com and sign up for our newsletter. That's the other way that you can always keep in touch with us. But it's the redundancies that you have to build into the system because what you are doing is technically a crime. And it really shouldn't be. And it's just ridiculous that it is. What was that new Dr. Meachalem case or news that came out this week, Miggy?
Oh, yeah. Well, I just closed it out. I saw you have it up there.
I have it up there. Let me go ahead and share it, and you go ahead and explain it. All right.
Well, and I still don't totally digest it because he's talking about how he's found a new, more potent than THC and CBD, but he doesn't explain like what effect. But if you scroll down, the acid, the pre-acid before the plant generates EPM 301. If you scroll back up,
EPM 301.
Yeah, right there in the little section, right below the video.
Yes, revealed his latest discovery: cannabidiolic acid methyl ester, EPM 301.
So I think this is just gonna be like a medicinal compound. That's all. That's why it's such a big hoopla. Because now, yay, pharmaceuticals! You can do something in the lab.
Yeah, but that's it. It's a new patented compound, synthetic, fully stable acid-based cannabinoid molecules. That is completely different than Delta-8 THC. That is completely different than Delta-8 THC. And so I'm going to go on a small hemp-based rant. And so, like, the definition of hemp is very, very broad. Under the 2018 Farm Bill. And so when you take hemp and then you extract it and then you have goo and then you take that goo and you provide, you might even distill it down to like just the CBD and then you do an isomerization of that to Delta-8 THC, that is hemp, according to my understanding, and hopefully also soon this lawsuit. And by soon, I mean this lawsuit will probably take, the lawsuit to sue the DEA will probably take years, or it could be disqualified by a motion for dismissal in the coming months. But we will report more on that here at Cannabis Legalization News.
Well, like you said too, that the number that they referenced for hemp is just arbitrary. I heard a great analogy how cannabis is kind of like corn, because corn can be grown for various reasons, oil, soy, all the other industrial stuff, but just like cannabis, it can be grown for rope or it can be grown for fun.
Yep.
You know, I mean,
and cannabinoids can be synthesized in the lab, but you can also take natural cannabinoids and do some processing and some extracting and some isomerizations and get other stuff that still doesn't have this Delta 9 in it, that has Delta 8, which has been studied for decades, and it's more safe than the Delta 9 version.
I just think it's crazy that we're so determined to have a lab-based product to be considered legal, whereas you have a freaking plant. It's natural. Just go for it. Give it a try.
That's right. How dare you have a plant, sir? Let's weigh the plant and then sentence him to a large amount of prison.
I mean, it's not going to kill you. What is hemlock illegal? I don't think it is. Can we grow hemlock legally?
I don't know, man. Half the stuff under your kitchen cabinet will probably kill you. And then if that's not enough to kill you, go to the medicine cabinet. And what the heck?
You need the power of
hey, Google.
No, that was one of my open browsers for the next news article that I wanted to report on. And you have to be careful when you're trying to get news from the internet, because news from the internet, like anything else, is filtered through a lens of bullshit. And that bullshit is trying to sell you stuff. And so I wanted to report the polls out of Montana for its ballot initiative before we brought on our guest. Unfortunately, the rag that I had on the internet started like advertising to us, and that was the audio that you heard there. And so no, but good news out of Montana polls. It appears that approximately 70% of people do support the legalization of cannabis in Montana, which is a population of about 1 million individuals, some of which are more righteous and guests of the show than others. And thanks so much for joining us on the new channels. That's one of the things. We're still under penalty under YouTube, but not on the podcast networks that are out there. And I was talking to somebody in the space today regarding how you do have to kind of make these redundancies, because what will happen is, as you are talking about changing the laws, some people don't want you talking about changing the laws, but I think it has to do with the election. So maybe, hopefully, we just lay low until after the election. Then they'll allow our channel to publish more. Maybe we'll even win our strike appeal. That would be awesome.
I don't know. I just think there's still that tinge of reefer madness. Did you hear the Montana district attorney, what they said, or the United States attorney?
What happened out of Montana?
This freaking genius. Let me see if I can share it. I can't share. Lauren, can you share me? So they put out this statement here, and you know what? Why do they put statements out on the official Department of Justice page? I mean, who actually goes here and checks this shit? But right. The guy is just spewing reefer madness about the upcoming
the United States District, U.S. Attorney's Office of the District of Montana. So yeah, this is that's hilarious. No, people, don't vote for it.
Yeah, legalization will increase as seen in Colorado and I mean, he's talking about use.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Oh, go ahead. No, just like the whole thing.
That news, there's like the other news, like Jim Cramer's reporting that a blue win, aka a Democrat win this election season, might be great for the marijuana industry. Like great for the marijuana industry. Because like right now, like maybe that different administration, different Department of Justice.
Well, it's kind of a win, lose, win, whoever wins, right? Because Republicans win and business will be okay. If Democrats win, then at least maybe.
Yeah, because the 90s sucked, right? Like when Clinton was manning the ship, it was just terrible. It was just, that. I don't think so. And so hopefully it turns out to be a blue win, because that would open up stuff. And then Marijuana Moment was reporting something as well this week. Of course, Marijuana Moment reports not just this week, but they report on a daily basis. And so they're starting to tell Texas that it would be billions of dollars of revenue if marijuana was legal in Texas.
Yeah,
it would create 20 to 40,000 jobs, $2.7 billion in sales.
Both hemp and cannabis, though. Can you imagine? That income would be amazing. Did you see New Zealand? How we were hoping for them? No. Has the vote come down? So they're done voting. Their prime minister won because she's amazing. But reading this headline from Cannabis Health Insider, they're saying results won't come out until November 6th. Really? For the cannabis issue. I guess it's part of the process.
Well, so how long do you think it's going to be before our election's called? I'll guarantee you it's not going to be election night. because of how many mail-in ballots there are.
Yeah, I mean, what they say, already 30 million?
Something ridiculous. Yeah, something ridiculous. But, there is some good news out of the state of California. The state of California is now open for license windows. And so license windows are going on now, and they'll be going on this fall in California. Hopefully we can help somebody in Fresno. Fresno's out there. Fairfield. Not sure if anybody's from Fairfield. Stanton, Novato, El Centro, Concord, Union City. We already said Fresno. Chico, Corona, Fullerton, Sacramento, San Bernardino. Yep, there's going to be some license opportunity in California, man.
That's like Central too. It seems like they're doing a lot of Central.
Well, you have to remember the central part of California didn't, when they legalized it, they didn't really legalize it. They allowed the communities to legalize it at their leisure, kind of. Well, I mean, it's legal, but the business wasn't welcome in that particular area of the state. Yeah. And then as time goes by and tax money is tax money and coronavirus is coronavirus, then it made a lot more sense for them to start these new licensing windows. And some of them, they aren't necessarily cultivation. They'll be like dispensing, like, all right, we'll take that tax revenue right here, plug that in. So, I mean, like, seriously, like, do you think that people aren't buying weed in Fresno? Come on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it's definitely
come on
happening. I mean, I used to live in there, so yeah, everybody's smoking weed. But I guess
did you ever buy any weed in Fresno?
Yeah. No. Well, Fresno is only an hour away from, about an hour and a half from Lemoore, where I did some school for the Navy, and then I'm just like, there's a lot of weed out there. But it's a lot of Republican type, conservative type people too, because military base and all that stuff. But
right. I know where all the military bases are. No, I don't. Yeah. Tom, point out Fort Bragg on a map. Oh, shit. Texas?
I could point to a couple, but that's only because I've been there.
Well, I didn't serve. I'm not a veteran, and so I have no idea where any military bases really are. I know that West Point is in New York. There we go. And I have a cousin that was at the Air Force Academy. That's somewhere in Colorado.
Right on. Well, you don't have a need. I couldn't tell you where any sort of banking stuff is at.
Sure. So what other news did you have going on in your neck of the woods? Because we had some crap that happened in Illinois, and then I'm going to be doing a webinar on one of them because the state got sued again, this time by the craft growers. And then what they did was they kind of said like, oh, you want those things? Well, here, you can have them. And we're not done grading the application.
Oh, my God.
So,
that's crazy,
expect more 10-day notices in the craft growers. And then, of course, I'll prepare the materials for the webinar. So tune in. You probably got that via email today if you were tuning into the show. And we'll talk about all the 6 pieces of litigation that are there, and also maybe some legislative amendments that might be coming to the CRTA next session.
Oh, did you see? So apparently, some activists in Mississippi, they're trying, politics. They're trying to get people on board. And there's a Trump campaign telling them to stop with the cease and desist using his name, which I find ironic because he uses everybody's music and doesn't care.
Well, again, they're like, Trump will sign it, says everybody that I've ever talked to that thinks Trump is pro-weed. And then they're like, all right, but then have you seen what everybody in his administration is doing? It doesn't sound like it's really pro-weed at all. And so I'm kind of glad that the polls are hopefully right this year, and then he'll be gone, because that would be awesome for, we wouldn't be in YouTube jail as much. Could you imagine if we weren't in YouTube jail? Oh my gosh.
Imagine if we could travel.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Because I'm lawful here, and then you're of course I'm on the Enterprise, but still I'm lawful. And then you're lawful on that lakefront property. But if we try to get to Idaho or Iowa, ooh, they don't like my kind around there.
You know who has a lot of issues with that are people who travel interstate with commerce for like hemp and stuff. And then
hemp interstate commerce can be quite tricky.
Yeah, and do you think they have insurance when they do that?
I would hope. Now, that's one of the things that's really difficult about operating in the cannabis industry is because, aren't all the contracts illegal? Kind of, at least at the federal level. So how does that, if you have insurance, can you make a claim and get it paid? Or are they going to be like, nope, sorry, it's illegal? Yeah.
Well, that's so curious. And then, for the hemp thing, what if you test hot? How is that covered? It doesn't get covered.
Oh yeah. And then some states, like the ones that begin with Idaho, Iowa, Indiana, like they have very, very stringent policies that try to get into compliance, the Republican compliance with the USDA, where it's just like, oh, you're over the line, burn it, and arrest that man.
You forgot Texas.
Ugh.
I mean, they stopped already millions of stuff going through because Ohio's right there, or Oklahoma.
There's some okay news going on in this. The best chart that I saw lately has to do with the money raised in a ratio of money raised in favor of legalization versus against legalization in the various states that are going to vote on it here next Tuesday. And what do you think the ratio is? How much to one?
Shoot. Well, I mean, after 100 years, it's already been $1 billion against the plant and only 100,000 on the activist side. But
the actual answer is 36 to 1 in favor. And so, like, for every dollar that was spent on advertising for the plant for or against this election season, $36 spent for $1 spent against. So if that kind of money doesn't help legalization sweep through all these states, I don't know what will.
Well, Chuck Schumer said that if they get it, that's going to be a priority for them.
Well, there you go. That's right. There's a lot of seats. There's about 12 in that that are in play regarding if they're going to be red or blue. And so if the Democrats take the Senate, and imagine if the Judiciary Committees, or was it the Judiciary, the Banking Committee, Mike Crapo, remember how he just totally gutted the Safe Banking Act? Imagine if that's not his job anymore. That would be awesome. Yeah,
being an activist for so long, dude, you just have these dreams of like utopia, of like Willy Wonka Weedland. But again, it's politics, and we're just kind of like waiting to see what happens. Like who sues who.
There's ways to do it. I mean, like Missouri, for example, is opening up their actual sales after voting on it for 2 years. And so that was kind of a cluster, but now they're starting to have sales. And Missouri officials are predicting a recreational marijuana legalization vote in 2022. They almost had it on the ballot this year, but COVID came up pretty hard this spring, and that really shut down their ability to get all the petitions signed that they need. And so I don't know if there's going to be any type of digital updates to petition signing or what. That's one of the hard parts about getting on the ballot. Or after you successfully get some cannabis on the ballot, then suddenly the ballot rules to get on are changed in the next legislative session that they have, like they did, I think, in like Vermont or Arkansas, where it got on the ballot. They weren't going to vote on it, and they're like, okay, let's make it much harder to get on the ballot. It's too easy to legalize weed. It's too easy to listen to the will of the people.
And that's the problem too with Missouri. I mean, it's such a shit show. They have medical right now. At the same time, a friend of mine, Adela Wisdom, who's a Missouri resident, a longtime cannabis activist. I mean, here's her testifying in San Diego, right? Low hanging fruit when it comes to like a person that you would be a suspect, right? They're using freaking National Guard helicopters surveying her backyard, and she's presently going through this in Missouri charges for her medical grow. It's a shit show. Yeah. So fingers crossed. Yeah, the power of good takes over. But
yeah, and then people email me all the time because they go way over their plant limits, or they think that anybody can grow hemp because they think that anybody can grow hemp. And I'm like, no, you need a license to do it. That's very often how it works. I mean, it's like, but it's legal now. Like, I get that. That doesn't mean like magically regulations are gone. Yeah. It means that they've made it not a crime to be doing, but not in the way that you did it. So like, look at the law and comply with it. That's something that, we've been saying that a lot on this show, but it doesn't matter. Like, we still get dinged with reports. So we have no idea how many of the feds are actually watching on the program to be like, hey, stop them from changing those laws. We have to protect our phony baloney jobs.
Dude, in the end, like the whole reason why I do fucking activism is it's just because, like, on a whole, I'm not the best person in the world, but I don't deserve to be in jail. Like the worst thing I'm doing is smoking weed, and
that's not the worst thing you're doing. I will guarantee, if you've been to McDonald's today, smoking weed is not the worst thing you've done. You know what I mean,
though. But
yeah, I get it. I'm having a grape soda right now. Like, granted, it's sweetened with stevia. It's called a Zevia grape soda, so I assume that it's better for me. But this might be the worst thing I do to myself all day.
Speaking of, I mean, did you see this new stamp they released out here? Drug-free stamp forever.
No.
Like, does that include sugar? Does that include caffeine?
What about oxygen? Does that include oxygen? Is oxygen yet classified as a drug?
How about my beer that I drink every night? I mean,
Yeah, well, that's ethanol. No, that's all natural. Wait, so how come that is all natural? Taking the process of sugars and using yeast to turn them into alcohols, that's all natural. But a plant, like, skipping all that processing and just going directly to the plant and growing that's a drug? Are you kidding me?
cannabis people are just people who just don't want to go to jail. Period.
Well, I think it's starting to break, because even states like Indiana are now having some reports. So there was a actual good news regarding cannabis out of Indiana, which really never happens. But their attorney general, it's attorney general candidate. Oh, that's what it probably means. It's only the candidate. It's not actually the attorney general, but their attorney general candidate, Weisenthal, calls on Indiana to legalize marijuana. So I guess next week we'll be reading about how Democratic Indiana Attorney General candidate Jonathan Weisenthal has lost the race for Attorney General in Indiana. What's that?
Indiana the USDA just approved commercial hemp growing. So
yeah, but you don't. Yeah, you see that's a scam, and it's not a scam, but like essentially it's a scam in my opinion, because the USDA is only giving permission to states that have said that they can use the USDA's guidelines that they came out with last Halloween, a year ago. Like the USDA took this huge shit on the CBD industry, and then they re-injected the DEA into a regulation to a certain extent because they made them tied into if stuff would test hot. And that goes against what the statute has said. You see, the USDA is supposed to be regulating it. It is no longer a controlled substance, by the way. And so therefore, the DEA has no authority to actually be in here mucking around and getting the USDA's way. But unfortunately, the Law and Order Republicans and Sonny Perdue reinserted the DEA into the testing and those types of phases. But there's some pending litigation going on that I'd love to report on. I'm doing some other stuff, and so I'll report on that litigation in a bit.
With that being said, because these are arbitrary numbers, right? What makes hemp? What makes THC? What makes marijuana?
No, so they don't necessarily have to be arbitrary, but according to the laws as we have them right now, yes, the legal definitions completely made up.
But the hard part for me overall as an American is like, as the states, we're not unified, right? Like Jay-Z's new pot ad thing is fucking brilliant. He's parking digital ads on borderlines of states. On one side says, here's legal cannabis, enjoy responsibly. On the other side says, hey, don't go to jail.
Well, that's literally the way that you want to do it. I mean, like I've seen the pro formas for dispensaries when they're on the borders of those types of states, for example, like in Indiana. So if I was going to try to get a license, I'd be looking at like Danville, Illinois, border of Iowa, border of Wisconsin, not necessarily the border of Missouri, because they'll probably go legal, but then definitely the border of Kentucky. Those types of states right there would be wonderful, or that area. And so like Jay-Z's not stupid. He's a great businessman. So he probably looked at like where the places are making money and he's like, I'll buy these licenses.
I mean, depending on what the licenses are, again, like Oklahoma, you don't really need a license, right?
No, you need a license, but you can get it. It's an open market versus a limited market. And so there's a lot of the cannabis industry is all in favor of limited markets, because if there's a limited market, there's higher profits, it's greater control. But then, of course, it's less likely to put the black market out. Or, I'm sorry, the traditional market, the legacy market out of business, the untaxed market. They'll probably just continue to operate because you've effectively barred them or any of them from getting in. But hey, they could be hired as a grower. It's like, great. So you want me to not be a businessman. You want me to always be an employee for Cresco. And like, I can't have my own shop and raise my own genetics. And that sucks. But that's the way that a lot of states have set that up. Illinois is one of them. For right now. I mean, like maybe craft grower licenses will get handed out, but the craft grower license, like what? You got that $10 million? All right, let's get into this.
Well, and then, we've talked before that entry barrier is so high. And I think part of like California's messed up legacy, everybody had this hippie dream that California was going to get it right.
Name one time a hippie dream has ever come true.
Well, we are semi-legal.